From Nevada Public Radio, I'm Joe Shaneman in the state of Nevada. For many of us, life without a pet is hard to imagine. They're family, and a lot of people live alone. Their dogs and cats provide a comfort they might not be able to find anywhere else. That goes double during the holidays when social media and TV are filled with all those cheerful images. The thing is, for many of those pets, the holidays can be stressful. There are more people around, routines aren't the same anymore as people go to parties, and events can take people away from home many of the times. So what are some of the best things we can do for our pets during the holidays? Lori Herron is the Executive Director of the Nevada Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. It facilitates the adoption and fostering of animals. Lori, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Joe. Happy holidays.
Thank you. And also with us is Shadi Ireifej. He's the owner and Chief Medical Officer of VetTriage.com. He's also a board-certified veterinary surgeon. Shadi, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me back.
It's great to have you here. Lori, I'm going to start with you. You know, during the holidays, people get into the giving spirit, and sometimes that present is a pet. Do you see more pet adoptions this time of year?
Yes, we also see a lot of people giving up their pets. Unfortunately, about 70% of the pets that come into Nevada SPC are surrendered by their owners. And when people are on the move for the holidays, it is a real thing that when they travel, instead of getting boarding, sometimes they will give up the pet. So we see both of it, Joe, and it's been such a tough year for us for people giving up pets because of economy. We really anticipate more of the latter. Yes, there will be people adopting pets, and at that point, our adoption team will advise them that they need to look past the initial emotional moment and consider the commitment of that iconic puppy under the Christmas tree. I mean, the puppy under the Christmas tree is a fantasy, unless you're really signed up for the lifelong commitment of that puppy or any pet. We also advise parents, because they're obviously buying gifts for their children, that if they're going to get a present for their child, they need to consider that they need to take care of that pet themselves, unless they have a really responsible child. And
of course,
I never had that. That they need to be prepared for the responsibility, because most children will not embrace it.
It's kind of hard for me to believe this, that if people, let's say they go away for a weekend or a week, they give up their pet rather than having somebody take care of it or boarding it?
Yes, we see it for the summertime as well. Again, we believe that over half of the animals that are given up to us, the animal is just not a priority. There are some very valid reasons. I mean, we have animals turned into us where the owner has passed away and the family can't take it. There are other reasons, but a lot of it is the animal is not a priority. So it's our job to find a new home for that animal where it is a priority, where somebody is prepared to take care of it for its lifespan.
So when people do that, do you talk to them? Do you try to counsel them out of doing that?
We do. We have an application they fill out, and they give us the reasons for the surrender. If they would keep the animal, if we gave them food from our pet pantry, or opportunities for free or low-cost veterinary assistance, which we offer through a funded community support desk by one of our generous donors, we do make that offer. But we also do not judge them. Our responsibility is first to the animal, and to find to rehome the animal into a place where it is a priority. So we do get as much information as possible, but our team also can recognize when the animal just is not going to be a priority.
So you think that more people give up their pets this time of year than come in to adopt or foster a pet?
Especially this year, Joe. It's always a balance where people come in to adopt and then people give up their pets. This has been such a tough year for Nevada SPC and shelters across the country with the rising prices of pet food and everything, that we've seen more and more people giving up their pets than ever before.
We're going to get more into those prices in a bit. You know, the Nevada SPCA's 2022 shelter statistics showed about 2,600 animals were adopted. That was 1,400 cats, 800 dogs, and the others were rabbits, guinea pigs, rats. It's impressive, but when you consider almost 3,700 animals were euthanized in Nevada last year, and that number is rising, is there an urgency to do more, or can you do more?
Absolutely. So we really appeal to anybody that has the means, Joe, to donate, to adopt. to foster, because we would not have a homeless pet problem in Southern Nevada if there were more homes for them. And so we encourage to adopt, don't shop. I mean, adoption should be the answer. I rejoice when anybody wants to make the commitment to an animal in their home. And I have a lot of personal friends that purchase their animals, and I'm not going to shame them. But again, we have a homeless pet problem. And right now it's specifically a large dog problem in our shelters. All the shelters can probably agree that we have lots of small dogs that get adopted really, really quickly. But the large dogs sit because they're more work. Many of them need a lot more exercise. Shelters are full of German Shepherds and pit bulls, of course, and Huskies. The Huskies are really cute little puppies with their little blue eyes, but then they grow up and people don't realize that they are working dogs that should be pulling sleds, and they need a lot of activity. The one good thing in all of this, Joe, is that cats are finally having their moment. We literally cannot keep cats in the shelter. They are getting adopted so quickly, and that's because they don't have the lease restrictions that big dogs have on weight and breed. You can leave them at home during the day. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel for the cats, but there is a huge, large dog problem right now in Southern Nevada and across the country.
You know, I talk about pets, and we all know this, that pets these days are just like family. It's much different than when I was growing up as a kid. Pet was your pet, but they are family members now. So I don't want to anthropomorphize animals, but I kind of want your perspective on animals who will sit in a shelter for days or weeks or months on end. Does that impact their personalities, their happiness?
Absolutely. Our staff is very aware when animals have been with us for too long and they start declining. We are a no-kill shelter, which means that we will not euthanize for time and space. They're going to be with us until we find them a home. We do a number of activities to keep the animals interested and engaged beyond dog walking. Our staff and volunteers work with giving them treats, with blowing bubbles, with reading to them, a lot of human interaction, because we know that the longer they're in a kennel, they will decline in a shelter, so we're very aware of that.
Lori Heron is with me. She's Executive Director of the Nevada SPCA. Also with me is Shadi Ireifej. He is the owner of VetTriage.com. He's a veterinary surgeon. Lori, you know, for years we have heard about the problems facing Las Vegas animal shelters, underfunding, some poorly trained staff. You run, again, this private nonprofit shelter. It's a no-kill shelter. Are you facing some of those same difficulties?
Absolutely. It's really expensive to run a shelter, and when we do not receive any funding from government contracts or national organizations, we really rely on the generosity of the community. We've been fortunate that we have many generous donors, individuals, businesses, family foundations. But Joe, this has been a scary year for me. I'm the one that looks at the bank accounts and knows that we need more support in order to continue what we're doing. And as the second largest shelter in Las Vegas, a shelter that not only takes in so many owner surrenders from all of the jurisdictions, in addition to transferring from other shelters, it's important that Nevada SPCA continues to exist because the other shelters in town, the Animal Foundation, they are overrun, and they need support from organizations like ours and the other rescues in town.
Our number is 702-258-3552. That's 702-258-3552. You can email son@knpr.org. So many of you are pet owners. They're part of your families. If you have issues, medical or otherwise, with your pet, give us a call. We have people here who can answer your questions. And Lori, for people out there, and I see them all the time, who see stray cats or dogs, I think some people fear calling animal control because the animals can later be euthanized. So suggest some things people can do if they see a stray dog or a cat.
So we certainly get those calls all the time, Joe, and they walk in the door with the animals. They also dump the animals. I mean, we had a stray cat dumped in front of our door on Saturday morning. Even though it's illegal, people still do it. And yes, they come to us because they know the animal will not be euthanized. If you have the means to keep the dog that you find, in your care, we will actually provide you supplies and a kennel until we can find that dog. Check the dog's ID first. Bring it to us or a vet clinic and make sure that there's not a microchip, and try to identify the owner first. Post it on social media and try to find the owner. And if you can't, then try to rehome it yourself. That would really assist shelters like ourselves and other shelters in the city. Additionally, if it's a cat, make a determination if it is a feral cat or if it's a friendly cat. And that's a difference. Feral cats are wildlife. They should be living outdoors. I know that a lot of people, that's very controversial, but you cannot domesticate a cat that has lived outdoors for most of its life. So make that determination. But on the other hand, we know there's a lot of dumped friendly cats where people just move away and they don't take the cat with them. And those are the cats that we will intake and rehome them at our shelter.
Are feral cats a big problem here? Years and years ago, Clark County, with Chris Giuliani, had enacted a program where people could get cages to trap the cats and then have them neutered and then put the cats back out. I frankly like the feral cats in my neighborhood because if there are any rats in the area, they take care of them. But that's my own opinion. But I'm wondering about that kind of program today. Does it still exist?
It does exist, and it's amazing work. Keith Williams and my friends at C5 are the guys that get up in the night and trap cats when they're nocturnal, and then take them to a veterinary clinic to get them spayed and neutered. It's work that needs to continue. I'll tell you, it's also work that's desperately in need of funding. Yeah, we have a huge feral cat issue out there, and the issue is that they need to be spayed and neutered. A mother cat can give birth to over 180 kittens in a lifetime. Unlike humans, they continue to breed throughout their entire lifespan, and they breed when the weather's warm. So this is not South Dakota, where I grew up, where the kitties started happening in May and they stopped in September. We are seeing kittens come into our shelter almost 12 months a year. And they have a lot of feeding sources with all the casinos in town. There's colonies at all the casinos where they're getting food, and other places. They have lots of opportunities to get food, but you gotta spay and neuter them. So I am a big supporter of what C5 does and all the trappers out there, and it needs to continue and it needs to get funding.
You know, it's so interesting. We have so many animals that are taken to you, that are taken to other shelters. People give them up. At the same time, we have pet stores where they are selling animals, but there is an ordinance in Clark County that will go into effect on December 20th, which is going to ban the sale of some animals. Talk about that.
We're really grateful to our Commissioner, Michael Naft, for introducing this ordinance a year ago. Nevada SPCA obviously was in support of it. Again, Joe, there is a homeless pet problem, so we need to decrease the number of pets in our community. And I was talking before the program with you and Shadi that I actually went to a pet store once and watched an interaction with someone that was purchasing, right before Christmas, a miniature Schnauzer puppy. And there was no information given to that person about what they would expect with that particular breed in a puppy. It is clearly a financial transaction. And while we really train ourselves in best practices in sheltering and not to put up barriers for adoption, we also give the potential adopter the information that they need for that particular breed. If you're adopting a big breed like a husky, we've had huskies that are jumpers, so we talk to them about having a fence in the backyard, but you're not getting that on the pet store level. So this was a really responsible ordinance that had to happen for our community so that we can move forward to continue to decrease more homeless pets in Southern Nevada.
You know, pets really aren't pets to most of us. They're family, and we want to bring them as much happiness as they bring us. How do we do that during the holidays when our routines change, when there are a lot of different things surrounding those pets at this time? Lori Heron is with us from the Nevada SPCA, and Shadi Ireifej is an owner and chief medical officer of VetTriage.com. He's also a board-certified veterinary surgeon. Shadi, welcome back.
Thank you again. Thank you so much.
And we have some questions for you, but I want to start with a listener question. This came in earlier from Asher in Vegas, who says, why is my cat obsessed with the Christmas tree? It's the first time I've had one. It's even a fake, and it doesn't have any piney smell, but Crumples won't stop biting and pulling things off of it. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah, if you look at big cats in the wild, lions, they're out in the savannas, they're hiding in the grass, and that's how they hunt their prey. That's how they live. And so our domesticated cats do find vegetation like trees, Christmas trees, interesting, and they want to explore them. The same way that their predecessors, these big cats, do the same in the wild.
Emily from Las Vegas. Emily, welcome to the program.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Sure, go ahead.
So I just, one of the things I was thinking about as you guys were talking about folks that surrender animals is if they do have an ongoing medical condition and it's cost prohibitive to have that treated. My family was lucky enough to adopt a little guy that was brought in by the previous owner to be euthanized because he had such severe allergies that he just had like really terrible infections and they couldn't get a handle on it. And thankfully, Town Center Animal Hospital said, no, we're not going to put him down. We'll let you surrender him. And they were able to develop a course of care, dietary changes, allergy medication. And so he was available for us to adopt once they got him under control. And even though it is an expensive lifelong condition, we have been able to get very affordable care through Hearts Alive Village and Hearts Alive Animal Clinic, so that this guy didn't have to lose his life because of a complicated and expensive medical condition that is manageable with the right resources.
That's really interesting, Emily. I wanted to ask you a question about the cost. Had there is pet insurance out there. The average cost for a dog is about $650 a year. For a cat, it's roughly $370 a year. Have you considered that?
Yeah, the problem with that, though, is that by the time we figured out he had these conditions, the insurers won't cover him because it's a pre-existing condition, the same as a lot of insurance with humans.
Sure.
Will deny coverage. If we had known prior, and signed him up, it would have been fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people are going to be heartened by the fact that you've gone to this length for that animal. Thank you so much for that call. And Tracy from Henderson is back with us. Tracy, welcome.
My dog was diagnosed with C. diff just yesterday. I don't know anything about it in dogs. I just know that it can be deadly in humans. And I just wondered what the prognosis would be and how that's treated.
Okay, Shadi.
How did they find the bacteria? Was it from a fecal sample?
Yes.
Got you. And did they submit that same sample for antibacterial testing to find out what antibiotic would be the best course of action to take?
I think they did. I have an appointment later today, but he had started with pancreatitis.
Yeah. So the biggest concern in terms of zoonosis, meaning the spread of an infectious disease from an animal to a person, is more likely in people that are immunocompromised. So you're on chemotherapy, you have HIV, or you're really young or really old. Those are the folks that are the biggest risk of getting something like that, like Clostridium difficile, and becoming sick from it, from the dog having it. Thankfully, the overall prevalence of this being spread from dog to person is very low. And it sounds like your vet is performing the right diagnostic workup. Those culture tests that look for what the best antibiotic is for that bacteria do take 5 to 7 days usually, so it's a slow wait. Usually they'll treat your pet in the meantime until they get those results in, and then change course antibiotics if needed. But it's one of those bacterial conditions that probably goes underdiagnosed because most pets either resolve it on their own or resolve it through empirical antibiotic usage. But it's something that hopefully you guys can treat successfully.
So you in general, you think her dog will be fine?
Yes, yeah. If there's no other complicated factors, and I'm not sure if they think that pancreatitis is related to the Clostridium or not, but dogs are very resilient, and we should hopefully be able to recover from this.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for that call. I'm sure a lot of other people are dealing with a very similar issue. And again, if you are dealing with an issue, medical, even a psychological issue with your pet, give us a call. We have Lori Heron here, Executive Director of the Nevada SPCA, and Shadi Ireifej. He's the owner of VetTriage.com. He's a veterinary surgeon, and they really do have a lot of answers for many of your questions. The number is 702-258-3552, 702-258-3552. And Dino from Silverado Ranch has a comment about feral cats, catch and release. Dino, welcome.
Hi, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Go ahead, Dino.
Last week, somebody came down our street in a van. Our neighbor caught it on camera. There was a van with a cat on the side of it. They came, they opened the sliding door, brought out a cat carrier, and released the cat in our neighborhood. Scared the crap out of the cat, ran like hell, and the cat was crying and hiding on our porch. We have taken it in since, but her belly is completely shaved. She's got stitches that are not healed and a clipped ear. And I don't know, is that the standard catch and release the way it's done, or what am I missing?
Feral.
And she's not feral, but she's got a clipped ear and she's a baby. So tell me what you know about that type of situation.
Great question. I'd never heard of this. Lori.
So I don't know what van that was. We have cats on our van, but it was not us. We have a lot of animals on our van. It is protocol in trap and release to return the cat to the area of its colony. It sounds like this cat was not feral, and it was probably a dumped friendly cat that somebody left behind. Those cats are being picked up by the trap and return staff and returned to the colony. So that's probably what happened. Again, I don't know the organization that dropped it off, but I know our protocol would be to return the cat to the area of its colony.
And thank you so much for that call, Dino. Really interesting question, and I hope that helped you. And we're taking a call now from Buford in Henderson. Welcome to the program.
Hi. I adopted a dog about 5 years ago. She's a small dog. We had to go to Reno to get her. She had a couple of homes because she was not accepted in those homes. She was so active and playful, energetic.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question is, she has this obsession with having the ball thrown and bringing it back to the point of it would go on 24 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody would allow it. And I began to suspect some time back that this was not the delightful behavior that everybody perceives it as.
Huh.
I'm beginning to think this is like a response of nerves, like a nervous tick. So does your expert think I might be somewhat correct about this, or should we just try to establish given times during the day when we throw the ball and not just always?
Shadi?
So a few ideas I have here. Number one, we do have veterinary behaviorists. They are hard to come by on a national scale, but we do have veterinarians who are specialized in behavior issues, and that would be a fantastic place to start with this. There's also a online behavior consultation called abadog.com that you can check out, ABADOG, and that's if you don't have the time or the finances to commit to a specialist, especially if you have to drive out of state to see one. But that's my first thought. My second thought is, if you have a dog that's wired this way, trying to figure out environmentally what you can do to sort of take the energy out of them, whether it be adopt another dog, so a playmate, whether it be doggy daycare, maybe more strenuous activities that go beyond just chasing a ball, like hiking. It would be a good one, or running with you, if you guys are into that. And that's another way you can sort of enrich this dog's lifestyle, give them the mental and physical stimulation he needs, but without feeling like you are promoting a psychological problem. And at the end of the day, if you end up trying these measures and they're not really successful after several months, then the behavior consultation is probably the way to go to see if there's something more deep-rooted here, and maybe behavior modifying drugs may be the way to go if that's deemed the appropriate diagnosis.
Thank you so much for that call, Buford. Behavior modifying drugs.
So if you think of drugs like Prozac, for example, that are meant to alter the mentation of the dog, try to basically calm the nerves a bit, get them a bit more, I don't want to use the word sedate, but you want to modify their behavior in a way that they're not going to be comatose, obviously. You want them still enjoying their life without feeling like you're drugging them, but you have to sort of take the edge off a bit because they're wired in a certain way that's not compatible with what you're seeking for a companion animal. And so these class of drugs, behavior modifying drugs like Prozac, are very popular. The downfall to those drugs is it's very easy to abuse them because it's an easier and cheaper way to just throw drugs at a problem rather than finding a behaviorist and figuring out from a psychological viewpoint what's wrong with this pet, if anything is wrong. and also requires a commitment because these are probably going to be, if not long-term, lifelong drugs that this dog is on. So you need to follow up with your veterinarian, get the appropriate blood work, and never stop the drug unless instructed by your doctor.
So interesting. Thank you so much for that call. Before we get to more of these calls, Shadi, there's something we've been learning about and hearing about. There seems to be an unknown virus affecting the respiratory systems of dogs. And I know you know about this. Talk about what are you seeing? What does this infection do? And what are some of the leads as to what it might be?
So I actually have a YouTube channel with a video on there if anybody's interested in watching that as well. But one of the pet peeves of mine, no pun intended, is when we call something mysterious in the veterinary field, a lot of times the veterinarian's hands are tied. Us as veterinarians, we can only diagnose things if the pet owner is going to pay for those things. Otherwise, to call something unknown without having done the complete workup just doesn't make any sense. So keep that in mind too, as more details come out in this mystery. A lot of times things are only a mystery because veterinarians are not permitted to run all the diagnostics necessary to figure it out. Secondly, the reason why this is making such huge waves here in the media is because the veterinarians are seeing a large increase, a spike in pneumonia, where pneumonia is common, but this is a larger degree, and the dogs that are coming with pneumonia are also coming with very different histories. Some have chronic illnesses, and some are just coming in acutely ill. They're maybe coughing for a day or two, then all of a sudden they've got full-blown pneumonia. And that's a bit uncharacteristic if you look at the trends of respiratory organisms. The final thing I want to say is when you look at infectious organisms in dogs that can cause respiratory illnesses like pneumonia, there's only a handful of categories. It's either fungal, protozoal, parasitic, viral, or bacterial. So it's possible, but unlikely that this is some new agent. We just need to figure out what exactly this agent is. It's probably a variant of something that already exists. And the only way we can do that is in conjunction with the pet owner who has to commit financially to diagnostics. Yeah. And then, of course, at a state and federal level, there are veterinarians who specialize in infectious diseases on a broader scale who keep track of these things to figure out what the trends are as well.
Pneumonia in people is extremely dangerous. Many times it can be fatal. In animals, is it the same case?
Same case. The person or animal that's going to be most afflicted by pneumonia usually has a pre-existing condition. Like I mentioned before, they're on chemotherapy, they have HIV, they're geriatric, they're really young, they have chronic illnesses like asthma, bronchitis. The younger, healthier adults that just have a simple case of pneumonia, let's say, they're more likely to do very well with it. So it's the same thing with dogs.
I want to get to one more question, and this comes from Christina, who wrote in, my vet told me not to feed my dog grain-free pet food. Is this a new trend, and what's wrong with grain-free food?
So dietary trends come and go, and the grain-free trend has been around for many years. The only way we figure out on the clinical side, and practically speaking, whether or not a dietary trend is good or bad, is by having animals fed those diets and seeing what happens, unfortunately. We do try and conduct studies, obviously, and publish medical literature to figure this stuff out as well, but a lot of times that takes a lot of time and resources, and so people will just implement trends without really any backing. Grain-free is a problem because some of these diets can predispose these dogs to a cardiac condition called dilated cardiomyopathy, DCM, and we don't see this condition in dogs as often when they're fed a more maintenance diet. When they're fed something like this, they are missing the nutrients they need, and one of the organs that get hit is the heart.
Oh. So interesting. Again, our number is 702-258-3552, 702-258-3552. And Jerry from Seattle, welcome to the program.
Hello. Thank you. I'm from Seattle, but I'm originally from Las Vegas, so
okay.
I'm home visiting, and I heard your radio program. Anyways, I was in the Army for 22 years, so I'm not lured really easy, but I got this cat, right? She's a Siamese. She's a gorgeous cat, but she will lay on my arm, stare at me while I'm sleeping, and put her paw on my cheek. It's the cutest thing. But then when I fall asleep, she slaps me in the face. I'm starting to feel like I'm going to be in a football helmet to bed, but then she gets into the grill and shoves her paw into my mouth. Any ideas?
My answer will my answer will mirror the previous gentleman's question about their dog. You want to seek out a veterinary behaviorist, ideally, and see if this behavior is really pathologic, an underlying issue, and can be managed either with behavior modification or environmental enrichment or drugs, medications. Cats are a bit difficult because there are less of them that get the opportunity to be evaluated by a behaviorist, because cats tend to be a bit more homogeneous, no offense, than dogs are, and they also are very hard to train. If a cat is set on being a certain way, that's pretty much the way they're going to be. And if you either want to deal with that, you can, or you can consider medications with the appropriate veterinary supervision.
Yeah, thank you so much for that call. Yeah, cats are pretty cool. And again, our number is 702-258-3552, 702-258-3552, or email son@knpr.org. Mimi from Las Vegas, welcome to the program.
Hello?
Hi, Mimi. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I've become a cat mommy. I live in an apartment complex, and there's a trio of community cats that visit me and a couple of other places, and we feed them. But I know they need to be spayed or something, like that, because one of them did have some little kitties, and I was able to adopt them out to friends of mine. But I want to know, I'm 80 years old. I have no way of capturing these animals and taking them anywhere. Is there some place or someone that I can call that could possibly do this?
That is a great question, Mimi. Lori.
Mimi, I would recommend first and foremost that you contact C5. It stands for the Community Cat Coalition of Clark County, and they are the premier trappers in town. They have an army of people that will come out and trap your animals or your cats. They're experts at that. If for some reason I know they're very busy and they're very backed up, I'd also recommend that if you want to contact me at Nevada SPCA, we can give you some other resources for other trappers that we know out there that will help you get all of your kitties so we can get them in, spayed and neutered, and returned to the colony.
Mimi, thank you so much for that question. I'm sure it's one that other people have had. It's a great question, and we are looking up that number now, and we'll announce it in a few minutes. We have another call here from Judy in Las Vegas. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Hi, Judy. Go ahead.
Hi. My question is, I went to a place called Hearts Alive Cat Cafe. I think it's like on Rainbow from Flamingo. It was a lovely, lovely place. What are your thoughts on that? I was going to ask Lori. Has she heard of it? Does she know anything about that place?
Absolutely. So Christy and her team at Hearts Alive Village does amazing things in the community. We try to collaborate them with whatever we can. The Cat Cafe is a wonderful experience for people to get to know a cat, to do family celebrations, personal celebrations surrounded by cats, and you can adopt the cats in the cafe as well. So yes, I am a fan. It's a great place to go and meet a potential furry friend at the cafe and have some time with them and figure out if you're their person.
That's a great question. We got a lot of cat questions. And Lori, you mentioned earlier that you're having almost a hard time keeping up with the number of adoptions and fosters of cats. And I wonder, Shadi, if you're seeing the same thing in the veterinarian area.
I don't have as much of a experience with it as Lori does with this, but I'm so glad to hear that, because cats were historically notoriously difficult to adopt out. So that's really wonderful news.
And by the way, Mimi, if you do want to call the Community Cat Coalition, the phone number is 702-582-5867. Again, it's 702-582-5867, and that is an organization that can help you trap and get the cats in your neighborhood neutered. Again, our number is 702-258-3552. We have another question about cats. It's McKenna in Summerlin. Welcome to the program.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, go ahead.
So recently I actually found an injured cat by the side of the road, and me and my partner decided to take her in. We checked, she wasn't microchipped. And so in the first couple of weeks, we were online looking through a lot of lost cat pages and reading a lot of really sad stories. And we've never had a cat before, so we're kind of new to this world. And we've kind of come to the conclusion that letting your cat outdoor unsupervised just seems to us like an irresponsible way to be a pet owner. because a lot of these cats can then add to the homeless populations. And then additionally, I'm a conservation biology student at College of Southern Nevada. They're at the Charleston campus, actually. And I know that from that outdoor cats actually kill 2.4 billion birds a year. So I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that, and if you ever recommend or push people to keep their cat indoors or do supervised outdoor time.
Larry Aaron?
So I have 3 personal cats. I've stopped at 3 for now. I would never let my cats outside. There are just too many things that will happen to a cat outside, the cat that you found was injured by the side of the road. They can get hit by cars. There is a huge coyote problem in Southern Nevada. And I say problem even though it's not their fault. I mean, we have taken over their environment, but they come into our city and they feed on small dogs and cats and other wildlife. I would, as much as cats are fascinated by the outdoors, mine certainly are, I would keep them indoors. Secondly, yes, there is information that the outdoor cats are greatly reducing the songbird populations because there are so many cats in the wild, and it further underscores why we need to have strong spay-and-neuter opportunities and resources for these cats, and we need to stop the breeding to decrease the feral cat population, which will in turn help stop the destruction of the songbird population.
Well, thank you so much for that call, McKenna. And we're now going to go to another cat question. Matt from Las Vegas, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm glad I could squeeze it in, and thank you for squeezing me in. Quick question. I have an older cat who's actually been outdoors, and before I got him, and he's pretty strong and able to do that. And I've just introduced a younger kitten who's now becoming mid-sized cat, both males. And I'm just trying to figure out how to do that. They haven't met each other other than through the crack in the door. And I'm just trying to figure out how best to do that without a whole lot of aggression taking place or either of them getting hurt.
Shadi?
What you're doing sounds appropriate so far. You want to do it gradually. So a common method is exactly that. They beat each other through the crack at the bottom of the door, and then you sort of graduate from there. Again, cats are, like we mentioned before, very tricky because you do this gradual introduction with the hopes that they will get used to each other, understanding that sometimes that is unsuccessful. And if that is unsuccessful, it's very, very difficult to fix. They end up just fighting. So not to dampen your hopes on it, obviously there are plenty of cats that live in peace cohesively, but doing it the way you're doing it, where it's gradual as possible for your living environment, that's the way to go. There are also plenty of YouTube videos out there by folks that will talk about this topic at length if you want to search as well.
Yeah, really interesting. Great call, Matt. Thank you so much. You know, I was wondering about travel. My son's dog hates long car rides. It'll whine, pace back and forth in the back seat. And I know some people are going to think I'm a cretin for suggesting this, but when I was growing up, you know, and the dog, we were taking the dog someplace, we'd give it Benadryl. And the dog would calm down, you know, just like Benadryl makes me sleep at night. So is that an awful thing?
No, it's not. So we are traveling with our pets a lot. I travel a lot for vet triage, and I see dogs at the airport and on the airplanes all the time now. It's commonplace. So we're traveling a lot with them. So you have to figure out a way to get these dogs that, evolutionarily speaking, would never be in a vehicle or a plane or a boat. We have to find a way to make it so that it's at least somewhat comfortable for them. So there are some behavior modifications you can do. You can have your dog in your car, go for a short car ride, see how that goes, gradually lengthen the car ride and see how your dog deals with that. And then, of course, the medication aspect to it. Benadryl is a great option because dogs are not as sensitive to the sedation effects of Benadryl like people are. They can handle a way higher dose and still be completely functional. As a person, it would knock us out. And there are other drugs that require a veterinary prescription, like trazodone or acepromazine. That same idea as the Benadryl, to kind of numb the nerves a bit so that they are not being freaked out by the car ride or causing any issues for anybody that's riding with you. And then another part to this too is nausea. Some animals get car sick. And so there's Dramamine that we can give dogs as well. There's
regular Dramamine.
Yep. And I would only do this, of course, with a veterinarian instructing you on the proper use, dose, frequency, etc. And then there are higher end prescription drugs that you get from a veterinarian for the same reason, to try and curb their nausea as well if they do have issues with vomiting in the car.
Yeah, I think as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about the cost of some of these medications. It sounds like there are a lot of them now for pets for different ailments. And I mentioned this earlier online. It says the average cost to have a pet dog in 1 year is $650 a year. It's close to $400 a year for cats. And there's a website called minipets.com that says Nevada is the 15th most expensive state for pet owners. I wonder if you think the kind of cost that pet owners incur justifies getting pet insurance. I mean, do you see enough people coming in with these huge, potentially expensive procedures that pet insurance, you think everybody should get it? Or give me your thoughts on that.
I have a bit biased view on this because I'm a board certified surgeon, and so when I see a pet, it's something big, and it's going to be a big problem, which means a big bill. It's whether it's spinal surgery, heart surgery, brain surgery, it's going to be expensive, and so those pet owners that have insurance going into this are very thankful they had it. So that's my view on it, because as a specialist, I see the sickest, most severely injured animals. It's going to be a high price tag. I do advocate anybody out there getting pets to get pet insurance. It's just a smart move. Because although you may be spending the money on the pet insurance and never having to use it, which is great too, the one time that something happens and it's a big deal, you'll be thankful you have it.
You know, people also put off veterinary care because of the cost. I wonder, I have a pet and I see some kind of thing, an issue, a behavior. What are some of the things people might see that if you saw, you would not take them to a veterinarian for? Some things you can just let go and you know they're going to be fine.
So a couple things to comment there. Number one, just like in people, prophylactic care and overall mental and physical health is the best and cheapest way to prevent illness later on. So if you can keep your pet on a great quality diet, they're vaccinated, they're out of trouble, that's way cheaper in the short and long term than skipping out on these veterinary visits and now having a dog that's got pancreatitis and diabetes and thyroid, things that maybe were preventable with just routine care. So try to think more long term when you're trying to allocate finances to your pet. If you maintain their health now, just like people, you know, you watch your weight, you watch what you eat, get exercise, all that stuff, you'll prevent you as a person developing issues down the line, which become more expensive for you and the system and all this stuff. So that's number one. Number two is, what was the other question? I'm sorry.
Well, actually, you know, it brings up a question, and this is something I've heard people talking about, that there's a thing called a reverse sneeze in an animal. And if you see that, is that, you know,
right.
First of all, what is it? And if you see it, is that you take that dog to the emergency room? What do you do?
So reverse sneezing, and anybody who wants to see what this is, if you haven't heard of it before, can again just YouTube it. There's videos out there. You see it most often in smaller breed dogs and brachycephalics. Brachycephalic dogs are those dog breeds that have squished faces like pugs and bulldogs, pit bulls. And it's where they have, literally, if you can imagine what a reverse sneeze sounds like, as opposed to the air blowing out. It sounds almost like a pig. They're inhaling the air instead of expelling the air. And it's not pathologic. It's more of a dinner conversation, and that's usually where it ends. There are some tricks that you can do if your dog is going through a reverse sneeze at home to try and stop it. But in general, it's not pathologic. Just let them go through it. But as far as in general speaking, you know, again, not to toot my own company, but the idea behind vet triage was if you're seeing something that's weird with your pet and you're just not sure if this warrants a medical attention right now at the emergency hospital, or can it wait tomorrow, or do you even have to see a vet for this, it's a great avenue to talk to a veterinarian virtually 24/7 for that type of deal. But reverse sneezing is an interesting one because we do get some of that. Another interesting one actually is a cat that's in heat. So you'll have a cat that hasn't been spayed yet, and when she's in estrus, she's in heat, boy, she will howl, move her tail around, her butt in the air. She's causing all kinds of chaos at home. And I've had calls where people think, is my cat having a stroke or a seizure? What is this? Because they're so dramatic about it, but they're in mating mode. This is typical estrus in a cat. And so that's another example online with the reverse sneezing where people will freak out, but it's actually a non-issue. It's normal for a cat who's in heat. Get that cat spayed.
That is hilarious. You know, I just heard about somebody talking about their dog eating grapes, that the dog threw up most of the grapes, but then still needed surgery. What's wrong with dog eating grapes. So is that a deathly, you feed a dog grapes, is it going to die from that?
So, excuse me. In general, when you look at toxicities, whether it be plants, fruits, vegetables, chocolates, marijuana, etc., there's a dose range. We can actually calculate what the toxic range is for any particular pet based on that pet's weight and how much of the thing they ingested. And you can make a prediction as to whether or not it's concerning or whether you'll see clinical signs, how severe it is based on those calculations. So grapes is a very common exposure item, and if your dog is of sufficient weight and did not eat the right number of grapes, then you're probably fine. Or if your dog is very tiny and gone to a whole bunch of grapes, that might be excessive. The question of what's causing this in these animals, a lot of these toxins, believe it or not, even though grapes are so common, we still don't really know what the agent is that causes the problem. And why is there a unique variation in dogs as opposed to any other species? But in terms of grapes and related raisins, the kidneys are the concern with those. If they ate too many and they're in the toxic range, then the kidneys can be damaged from it.
Thank you so much for that information. That's Shadi Ireifej. He is the owner of VetTriage.com. He's a veterinary surgeon, and Lori Heron is also with us, Executive Director of the Nevada SPCA. Take care of your animals out there during this holiday season.